Okay. Um, all right. Good morning, everyone. I've just started recording and slightly delayed. Sorry about that. Okay. So, are there any questions or concerns pertaining to Menger's theorem or its proof? If there is anything in the proof that you did not follow, this is the best time to ask. Right? Before we move on, please clarify any concerns or doubts you may have. Right? So we proved that the p value and the c value, the local connectivity and the local vertex cut function for any two non-adjacent distinct vertices, they are equal in any graph. Right? Okay. And the proof that we saw made a very clever use of induction. Perhaps one of the most clever uses of induction that we have seen so far in this course. And perhaps for all the results we'll see in this course, it's really a clever inductive proof. Right? So if there is anything that wasn't clear, please ask right now. Otherwise, we will move on to some consequences and applications of Menger's theorem. Right, so the base case was left to you. You are considering graphs where all edges are incident with either x or with y. And these graphs are very special in structure, and you just observe Menger's theorem to be true on those graphs. Okay? All right, so if there are no questions or concerns, um, let's take an alternative look at vertex connectivity using Menger's theorem. Okay? So I want you to recall how we defined vertex connectivity. The vertex connectivity of a graph G was defined as the minimum over all pairs UV of distinct vertices. And you take the minimum over the PUV, the local connectivity between those two vertices, which is the maximum number of pairwise internally disjoint UV paths, right? Um, and Menger's theorem tells us that the local connectivity is the same as the cut function, the local cut function. Whenever x and y are distinct non-adjacent vertices in a graph G. Okay? So they are kind of the same thing, right? The local connectivity is kind of the same as the local cut function. So you might be tempted to come up with an equivalent definition of connectivity of a graph as follows. Rather than taking the local connectivity, we take the local cut function between any two vertices. And the question is this a correct definition? Is this another way to look at Menger's theorem? Right? And just to remind you, what is this? This is simply the size of a minimum vertex cut in G.
Sir, I think
Right?
it will be U not equal to V, U not adjacent to V, because UV is
Right.
defined for adjacent to V.
Exactly, exactly. So there is a problem with with this definition. U and V could be adjacent, and then actually you won't even have a UV vertex cut in the graph. You can delete all the vertices, and U and V will still be connected, right? So there is already a problem here. So we will prove that this is true, except for complete graphs and graphs obtained from complete graphs by adding multiple edges and loops. Okay, so this is false. And the problem is when the underlying simple graph of G is a complete graph. So I hope you remember this notation. This is the notation when you remove all the loops, and for every pair UV, if they are adjacent, you just put one edge between them. Right? So that's the underlying simple graph. So whenever the underlying simple graph is a complete graph, you cannot define the size of a minimum vertex cut because there are no vertex cuts in the graph. Okay, good. So we will prove the following today. So you take any graph G such that G has a pair of non-adjacent vertices. A graph that has a pair of non-adjacent vertices. Notice that this is the same as saying that the underlying simple graph is not complete. Okay? Then for such graphs, you can actually define, you can say that the connectivity of the graph is you take the local cut function between any two vertices, but you just consider the non-adjacent vertices. And this will give you the connectivity of the graph. So yeah, U and V are okay. And this was proved by Whitney in 1932. And we will use Menger's theorem to prove this.
Sir, basically this theorem says that vertex connectivity is basically the smallest number of vertices one must remove from G, either to make the graph G disconnected or to make it into a trivial graph, either with exactly one vertex. Provided that the original graph G is connected. Means I am assuming that the original graph G is connected, loopless, and then we can say that this definition is equivalent to saying that vertex
Right.
connectivity is nothing but the smallest number of vertices one must remove to either disconnect the graph or to make it into a trivial graph.
Right,
Either
right. So you are trying to take into account complete graphs and complete graphs
exactly,
with
exactly.
multiple edges and loops into your definition. So yeah, that is, if I'm not mistaken, that is one way to view it. I would have to check the details, but yeah, what you are saying seems correct.
Because
Another, yeah,
for
go ahead.
complete graphs we cannot disconnect it.
That's
So
right.
yeah, so for complete graph connectivity by definition is n minus one for
Right.
kn, equity kn. Yeah.
Right. I'm just concerned about one thing. So, are you assuming a graph to be simple?
Yeah, I am assuming the graph to be simple.
Are you assuming the graph to be simple?
By simple, I mean the graph is loopless. I mean it can have multiple edges,
Okay.
but it cannot have loops.
So, what is the connectivity of this graph according to your definition?
Uh, I am not exactly sure, but I think that
But you see that this is a problem, right?
yeah,
Because
it may
here, between any two vertices, how many paths are there? Internally
three
disjoint.
paths. Three paths.
No, it is not three. There is one more.
Okay, yeah, it will be
Yeah,
four. Yeah,
there are four
got,
paths.
got, got, sir. Yeah,
But if you delete two vertices, you'll get a single vertex. So you have to be slightly more careful to deal with complete graphs with multiple edges. Okay?
yeah.
So there might be an equivalent definition. Think about it. But yeah, you're kind of on the right track.
I think, sir, with multiple edges, my definition will create problem. But for
Yeah.
simple graphs, it will work.
For simple graphs, I think it is correct. Yeah.
Simple graphs will work. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Okay. So
So
this is
multiple.
essentially, yeah. So this is essentially saying that this is a size of a minimum vertex cut by Menger's theorem, right? Because PUV is the same as CUV, and if you take the minimum over all CUV, then you will get the size of a minimum vertex cut. And vertex cuts exist in this graph because we have a pair of non-adjacent vertices. Okay? So this is what we want to prove. Okay. And just to remind you again, what is the connectivity of a graph? We just wrote it above, but let's write it down here again. This is simply the minimum taken over all pairs of distinct vertices. Right? So what is this saying? What is the theorem saying? Whether you take the minimum over all pairs of distinct vertices, or whether you take the minimum over all pairs of distinct non-adjacent vertices, you will get the same answer, so long as your graph has a pair of non-adjacent vertices. Okay? So let's try to prove this.
So isn't it obvious from Manjur's theorem?
Is it? Menger's theorem only tells you that the local connectivity is the same as the local cut function between any two non-adjacent distinct vertices. But how do you deal with the case where the minimum is attained by two adjacent vertices? Sorry?
No, I was confused.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not the same as Menger's theorem. We will need to do a bit slightly more. But most of the work is done by Menger. So in that sense, you are right. The heavy lifting is done by Menger's. This is an easy consequence to prove. Okay? Good. So what we will do is, we will prove the statement for simple graphs. And I want you to try proving it for all graphs using the fact that it is true for simple graphs. Okay? So let us assume that we have a graph G such that G is not a complete graph. Okay? So there is a pair of non-adjacent vertices. Good. And let us consider, so we are going to look at the connectivity of the graph, right? The
So sir, basically we're
connectivity,
doing
yeah.
that for simple graph, right?
Sorry? Yeah, we are proving for simple graphs, right? The connectivity
So
of
for
a
all
graph,
graphs, it is do it all. Means for every graph, it is a do it yourself. Means for any graph.
yes. Okay. So you want to prove it for graphs that are not simple using the fact that it is true for simple graphs. We know the connectivity is you take the minimum over all pairs of distinct vertices. So let us suppose that the minimum is attained by two vertices x and y. Let xy be a pair of vertices that attains this minimum. Okay, which minimum? This one. Okay. So if x and y are non-adjacent, then there is nothing to prove, because we are trying to prove that taking the minimum over distinct non-adjacent vertices is the same as taking the minimum over distinct pairs. Okay. So if x and y are non-adjacent in G, then nothing to prove. Now suppose that x and y are adjacent in this graph, which is the same as saying that xy is an edge of the graph, because our graph is simple. So I don't need to worry about multiple edges. Okay. So there is an edge joining these two vertices in our graph. Okay. What is our goal? Just so that everybody is on the same page. Our goal is to show that there is a pair of non-adjacent vertices, S and T, that will also attain the same minimum. To show that there exists a pair S comma T of distinct non-adjacent vertices such that the number of paths between S and T is the same as the number of paths between X and Y. Okay, so it attains the same minimum. All right. And we want to use Menger's theorem to prove this. So let's consider the graph H, which is G minus XY. Okay. So in the graph G, X and Y are adjacent, and in the graph H, X and Y are non-adjacent. Can somebody tell me how many paths are going to be there between X and Y in H?
PG minus 1.
Exactly. The number of paths will go down by exactly 1 because you have removed the edge joining them. Right? If you take any set of pairwise disjoint paths, if you don't use the edge XY, then you can make the size bigger by adding the edge XY as a single path. So in any such collection of paths, the edge XY has to be one of the paths. And so when you remove it, the maximum size of a family will go down by exactly 1. Okay? Good. Also, what can we say about the minimum cut between X and Y in H? We can say that these are equal by Menger's theorem because they are non-adjacent vertices in H. So we can apply Menger's theorem on H. Right? Okay. Good. So what we are going to do is we are going to take a cut separating X and Y in the graph H, a cut of minimum cardinality. Let S denote a minimum XY vertex cut in H. Notice that the reason we are doing this in H is because in the graph G, there is no such XY vertex cut because they were adjacent vertices, right? So in order to use a vertex cut, we have to first make them non-adjacent. Okay? So what does the drawing look like? We have a component containing X. We have some vertices S that we have removed. And we have a component containing Y, and there might be other components in the graph. Okay? This is the graph H. Okay? So let's go back to our goal. What is our goal? We want to find a pair of non-adjacent distinct vertices in the original graph G so that the number of paths between those two is the same as the number of paths between X and Y. Okay? So we won't change both the vertices, we will change one of the vertices. Okay? So suppose, well, there is a case 1. I won't write down what the case is right now. Okay? But here's the idea. Let's say we are able to find some vertex Z which is not in the graph in the set S, which is not X and which is not Y. Okay, there is some vertex in the graph that is not in the set S and it is neither X nor Y. Where can this vertex be? Well, it can be in any of the components of H minus S, right? And in particular, I can make sure that it is not in the same component as X. If it is in the same component as X, then I will relabel X and Y. Okay? So I will adjust notation. so that Z and X do not belong to the same component of H minus S. Okay? So for example, Z could be in the same component as Y. Let us make a drawing like that. But Z could also be in a different component. Okay? My claim now is that X comma Z is the desired pair of vertices. What do I mean by desired pair of vertices? It is the pair that achieves our goal. Okay? So clearly, X and Z are not adjacent in the graph G. Because what is the graph G? You add an edge between X and Y. So X and Z are still going to be non-adjacent. Right? Okay.
Sir, can you explain me the case one again? Isn't clear
Oh
to me.
yeah, I haven't written down what the case is. So can you tell me now, by this assumption, what do you think the case should be?
So Z is a vertex of G which is neither in S and nor X nor Y.
Yeah.
So Z could be in. So vertex
So
of
when-
H equal to vertex of G.
When
So-
is
so
this
bas-
true?
So basically Z could be in any of the components of H minus S other than the components of X and Y.
That's not the right answer. So when can you always find a vertex that is not one of these vertices?
When the vertex cut has less than n minus 2 vertices.
That's right. Exactly. In other words, you simply want this set to be non-empty. Okay? Whenever this set is non-empty, there is an element in that set, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay? So that is our case one.
Okay. Okay. So case one is basically that set is non-empty.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay? And case two will be when that set is empty. So we'll look at that later. Let's not worry about that right now. Okay? So now I want to argue that the number of paths between X and Z, so to show that the number of paths in G between X and Z is exactly equal to the number of
But sir,
paths
I have
between.
a question. I have a question. So what happens? What happens if Z belongs to a component of H minus S, which is neither the component of X nor the component of Y?
It does not matter. It does not matter. So this drawing is not representative. This drawing could very well be like this.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. The only thing I want is that X and Z do not belong to the same component. Okay? So that will still be true.
Z not belong to the same component. Okay. So basically, Z may belong to component of Y or not. So
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay? Good. All right. So let us argue that the number of paths between X and Z is equal to the number of paths between X and Y in the graph G. Okay? Notice that in G, if I want to separate X and Z, I can delete the set S and I can delete the vertex Y. And that will definitely separate X and Z. So S union Y, I generally won't write S union Y, it is too much work. I will write S plus Y, okay? Is an XZ vertex cut. Right? If I delete the vertices in S and the vertex Y, then I will definitely separate X and Z in the graph G. Okay? So the number of vertices in an XZ vertex cut has to be less than equal to the cardinality of S plus Y. And what is this? This is the cardinality of S plus 1. Right? Because Y does not belong to S. And what is this? this is exactly equal to PGXY, because the cardinality of S is equal to this set, right? So this is exactly equal to this is by choice of S. Okay, good. All right. And finally, notice that this is equal to the number of paths in G between X and Z by Menger's theorem. Because X and Z are non-adjacent in G, so I can apply Menger's theorem. Okay, so what are we saying? We are saying that the number of paths between X and Z is less than equal to the number of paths between X and Y. What does this mean? Can somebody complete the proof?
It cannot be less than due to our assumption. So it's
Right.
equal.
Exactly. X and Y was a pair that attained the minimum. So you cannot find a pair that will have less than. So by choice of X and Y, by choice of the pair XY, these two quantities have to necessarily be equal. Okay? And that is exactly what we are trying to prove. We were trying to prove that there is a pair of distinct non-adjacent vertices that will attain the same minimum that is achieved by X and Y. Okay? So, done. Okay? And what remains now is case 2. What is case 2? When there is no vertex in the set after deleting S, X, and Y. Right? So, well, what does the drawing look like? You have a vertex X, you have all your n minus 2 vertices here, and you have the vertex Y. Okay? Let's say we put some 5 vertices here, doesn't matter. Notice that S is a minimum XY vertex cut in the graph H. This means that every vertex in S has to be adjacent with X and it has to be adjacent with Y. Because if some vertex was not adjacent to Y, then you would get a smaller vertex cut separating X and Y, which is a contradiction to the choice of S. So it has to be this way. Note that by choice of S, each vertex in S is a neighbor of X and of Y. Right? And now you can actually see the number of paths, because in the original graph G, you had an edge joining X and Y. And for every other pairwise disjoint path from this, it will have to go through one of the vertices. That is the best you can do, because your graph is simple, so there are no more edges joining X and Y. So observe that there exists n minus 1 pairwise internally disjoint XY paths in the graph G, right? And this was a pair that attained the minimum. So that means that the connectivity of the graph G is exactly n minus 1, because for any other pair you will have at least n minus 1 paths, right? And now there is a simple do-it-yourself problem, which you might have already done. For a simple graph G, the connectivity is equal to n minus 1 if and only if your graph G is isomorphic to the complete graph N on n vertices. Okay, so this means that the graph is the complete graph by this exercise, and that is a contradiction because we assumed our graph was not complete. Okay, so this completes the proof.
Sir,
Yeah,
sir,
go ahead.
can you
Anand.
explain the last part of case one? Because why S plus Y will be a vertex cut? This part is not clear to me.
You mean the last in the case one?
Yeah, case one means in G you wrote a statement like in G S plus Y is a minimum vertex cut. Means S plus Y is a
Did I write
XZ vertex
minimum?
cut.
I did not write minimum, did I?
Not minimum, sir. Only simple
Right.
XZ vertex cut.
Well, you look at this drawing and you tell me. X and Z belong to distinct components after deleting the set S. You agree?
Yes, sir.
We adjusted notation in that way. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes.
So now think about adding the edge E back into this drawing. What can go wrong? So my claim is that if you delete the vertices in S, you will basically separate X and Z. The only problem is the vertex Y, because Z and Y could be the same component.
Same component. Okay, okay.
If they are not in the same component, then actually S itself will suffice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right? That is the reason I put them in the same component, because that is the case where you actually need to delete the vertex Y.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah?
So basically, if Z does not belong to component of Y, then S will suffice. But if Z
Then S will
belongs to
suffice.
component of Y,
Exactly.
then S plus Y will work.
Exactly.
S will not work.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right? So in either case, S plus Y is going to be an XZ vertex cut. Right? So rather than making two cases, we are able to deal with it in just one case again.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah? Good. Is everybody else able to follow that argument?
This is a,
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. So are there any questions or concerns about how we proved this theorem of Whitney?
sir, can we just once again scroll up the page
Yeah, sure.
just to the end of case one? I just want to see it. Yeah, sorry. So sir, here why mod S plus 1 equal to PGXY?
Let's see. Well, because by choice of S, let's go back to our choice of S. S is a minimum vertex cut in H, minimum XY vertex cut in H, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
what
yeah.
does that mean? The cardinality of S is equal to CHXY,
Yeah, CHXY, right?
right? And that is equal to PGXY minus 1 by Menger's theorem and our observation about H and G,
Okay, okay. So okay. So
right?
basically mod S equal to PGXY minus 1.
Right, exactly. And therefore mod S plus 1 is equal to PGXY. Yeah? So I'll just write down here, see the argument above.
Okay, so we are getting PGXZ is less than equal to PGXI, but since PGXI is the minimum over all distinct pairs, it must be that PG of XZ equal to PG of XY.
They have to be equal, yeah. Right? Exactly. So the crux is that if the minimum is attained by two adjacent vertices, it will also be attained by two non-adjacent vertices. So long as your graph is not a complete graph with loops and multiple edges. Okay? And so the main consequence that I want to emphasize upon again is that the connectivity of a graph, the vertex connectivity, is basically the size of a minimum vertex cut. So long as your graph is not a complete graph up to multiple edges and loops. Sorry, it's not a complete graph. right? And this definition is a very useful definition. So we defined it by using paths, but this definition using cuts is also going to be very useful in applications of Menger's theorem and arguing things about the connectivity of a graph and even applications to other areas of graph theory. Okay. So let me give you one example. Consider this graph. This graph is 3 connected. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, its connectivity is exactly equal to 3. Okay? And there are 2 ways to look at it. One way to look at it is that between any 2 vertices, you can find 3 pairwise disjoint paths, pairwise internally disjoint paths. Okay? And there are pairs where you cannot find more than 3 paths. That is easy to see actually. Another way to look at it is that the minimum number of vertices you need to remove to disconnect this graph is equal to 3. You cannot find any set of 2 vertices so that when you remove them, the graph becomes disconnected. And if you remove these 3 vertices that I've indicated, then the graph actually disconnects.
So basically, the graph has no cut vertex in particular. You can say
there is no cut vertex, but there is also no vertex cut of size 2.
size 2. Okay.
Right?
But if
You
we
need to remove at least 3 vertices, and 3 suffices.
So basically, if we remove these 3 vertices which you have shown, the graph will be disconnected.
That is one way to do it. There are other pairs, but this is one particular pair that I have pointed out. Okay, so is everybody able to see the 2 ways of looking at 3 connectivity and therefore K connectivity?
Sir, is there any characterization of 2 connected graphs?
Good point.
Kg is equal to 2.
Right. So let's talk about 2 connected graphs. This is actually where I want to head next. So, 2 connected graphs. Let's talk about them. So what does it mean for a graph to be 2 connected?
I think every 2 distinct vertices will lie on a common cycle.
That is true, but that is due to a theorem we proved, right? 2 connected means that there is no cut vertex.
No cut vertices.
Right? There is one thing you have to be careful about. No cut vertex, and of course the graph has to be connected. Connected and no cut vertex. And we have to be careful about complete graphs, right? Every time you think about connectivity, you should kind of make a special case for complete graphs. So what about the complete graphs? What about K2? Is K2 2 connected?
So I think it will be 2 connected. By definition, it is 2 connected.
Is it? Is it by definition 2 connected? What is the definition you are using?
No. Actually, in the definition, we are not allowing complete graphs, but K2 is a complete graph.
Yes, but what is the definition of a 2 connected graph? Between any 2 vertices, how many internally disjoint paths do you need?
2.
You need 2 paths. Where are the 2 paths? Right? So K2 is not a 2 connected graph. We do consider it to be a non-separable graph, but it is not 2 connected. Right? So we just need to deal with, we need to remove K1 and K2. So all complete graphs after K2, you can see that there are at least 2 paths between any 2 vertices, and therefore they are 2 connected. But K1 and K2 are not 2 connected. Okay?
Why not K1? K1 has only one vertex.
That is a good point. K1. Yeah, so we We had a convention when we defined connectivity last lecture or 2 lectures ago, where we said that for a graph with a single vertex, we will assume it to be 0 connected and 1 connected, but not k connected for any k greater than equal to 2. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
just an additional convention in the definition to make theorems work out very easily. Okay?
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's a good point.
Sir, I think that convention was for both K1 and K1 with a loop.
Yeah, it was for K1 with and K1 with as many loops as you like. Okay, good. And notice that this is almost, I will just write almost the same as non-separable graphs. There is one key difference. In non-separable graphs, you cannot have loops. But in a two-connected graph, you can have loops. Okay? So at least in the case of loopless graphs. So in many books on graph theory, you will not see a discussion on non-separable graphs. They will actually discuss two connected graphs, right? But we are following Bondi Murthy, so we are going to distinguish between these two, right? They are not the same class, but they are very similar, right? And if you don't care about loops and multiple edges, then they are almost the same. The only difference is K1 and K2 are non-separable, but they are not two connected. Okay? Okay, so now I want to talk about, you mentioned Aranya at some point that two connected graphs are exactly the same as those graphs in which any two vertices belong to a cycle.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
You all may recall that this is basically theorem 5.1, where you did not have any cut vertices and your graph had at least three vertices, but here we are removing K1 and K2, so that takes care of that assumption. Right? A graph is two connected if and only if any two vertices belong to a cycle. Right? And this is now easy to see because actually the definition of two connectivity requires there to be two pairwise internally disjoint paths between any two vertices, and that is actually your cycle. Okay, so theorem 5.1 is actually now an easy consequence of things we have already proved. So the question arises, is a similar statement true for k connected graphs? Does something similar hold for k connected graphs? What do I mean? In a two connected graph, any two vertices belong to a cycle. So could it be that in a k connected graph, any k vertices you choose will belong to a common cycle? And that turns out to be true, and that is Dirac's theorem. Okay, so this is from this is theorem 9.6 from 1952. So take any k connected graph. Sorry, go ahead.
This theorem says that in any k connected graph G, any k vertices of G lie on a common cycle.
That's right. So long as k is at least 2.
K is at least 2. Okay.
Right? So take any k vertices you like. Then there exists a cycle Q in the graph G which spans S. What do I mean by spans S? The vertex set of Q is contains the set S. Okay. So this is actually an application of Menger's theorem. We will prove it in the next lecture. I will just tell you, I will give you a try it yourself exercise to prove a certain lemma that will be useful to prove Dirac's theorem. Okay? So, let me define a K fan from a vertex X to a set Y. Okay? G is a graph. X is some vertex of your graph. And Y is a subset of the vertices that does not contain X. Okay, so your drawing looks like this. X is some vertex. Y is some set of vertices. And now I want to define a K fan. Okay? It looks like this. It's a bunch of paths, K paths, that are disjoint except for the fact that they all start at the vertex X. Okay? So a K fan from X to a set Y is a family of K pairwise internally disjoint X capital Y paths. So they start at X and they end at Y. Okay, we will call this a start vertex, and we'll call this vertex in Y as a terminal vertex. Okay,
So all the terminal vertices must be distinct, right?
they are distinct, whose terminals in the set Y are also distinct. Okay, so we have a
Basically,
bunch
mod I
of
should be
paths.
greater than.
Sorry.
So mod I should be greater than or equal to K if K fan exists.
Yes, that's right. So it's P1 to Pk. All start at X, and the intersection of any two paths is exactly the vertex X. Okay. So I'll give you two try it yourself problems. I need to also tell you the lemma. Prove the fan lemma. So what is a fan lemma? In any K connected graph, you can find a K fan for any set X and any subset of the vertices Y. Proposition 9.5. If G is a K connected graph, X is some vertex of the graph, Y is a subset of the vertices minus X, and cardinality of Y is at least K, then the lemma says that there exists a K fan in G from X to capital Y. Okay? And a second try it yourself problem, which is slightly harder than the first one, is to use the fan lemma to prove Dirac's theorem that we discussed above, that I wrote above. Okay, so try both of these. When I say try it yourself, I expect you to think about the problem. It's okay to struggle. Dirac did not prove it in a few minutes, I suppose. So you might struggle a bit. You may not even be able to complete the proof, but I want you to gain intuition by trying to prove it, so that when we see the proof, you are able to follow it better. And I don't want to spend too much time, so I will prove this tomorrow in our next lecture on Wednesday, but I won't spend too much time on it, right? So we'll go a bit fast because it's just a simple application of Menger's theorem in retrospect. Okay, and then we will move on to edge connectivity. So far we have been discussing vertex connectivity, and once we prove Dirac's theorem, we will go to edge connectivity. All right, so the lecture is officially over. I'll stop recording and I'm here for another 5-10 minutes for any questions.
So sir, after proving Dirac theorem, we'll move to edge connectivity, right?
Yes, that's right.